Every astrologer alive on July 29th will be looking at the exact same full moon, but not all of them will describe the same one. There is an older system, one astrologers in India have used continuously for thousands of years, and it reads this exact same stretch of stars completely differently. Once you see it through that lens, this full moon stops looking loud. I want to walk you through what that older system actually sees on July 29th, because once you understand the full shape of it, you'll understand why I'm not treating this as just another full moon. This is the kind of chart astrologers wait years to see land in one place at the same time, and it's happening 6 days after everything we just talked about with Mercury. Western astrology measures the heavens against the seasons. The tropical zodiac, anchored to the spring equinox every single year, no matter where the actual stars have drifted to. Vedic astrology, the sidereal system, measures the heavens against the real fixed position of the constellations themselves. Those two starting points used to line up almost perfectly thousands of years ago. But the Earth wobbles slightly on its axis over long stretches of time, and that wobble has slowly pulled the two systems apart. Today, the gap between them is almost a full sign, close to 24 degrees, which means the same moon on the same night can sit in Aquarius in one system and Capricorn in the other. Neither reading is wrong. They're two different lenses laid over the same map, built by two different traditions, asking two different questions. I bring both to you for a reason. The Western chart tells you the season this moon is unfolding in, the archetype, the broad emotional weather. The Vedic chart tells you something narrower and, honestly, harder to ignore. The exact degree, the exact star, the exact structure of planets holding it all together. One gives you the mood, the other gives you the mechanism. And in the Vedic chart, this full moon sits in a precise place. The nakshatra called Shravana, the listening star. Shravana spans the final stretch of Capricorn, and its symbol is an ear. Traditionally, this nakshatra is tied to Vishnu, the preserver, and to wisdom that is received, passed down, listened for, recognized as it arrives. People born under it, and moments that unfold under it, tend to carry a particular quality. Understanding that arrives because you finally went quiet long enough to actually hear it. Shravana is also associated with connection and reputation, with the kind of knowledge that spreads because it was worth repeating. It's recognition earned by finally saying something true out loud. There's something almost too fitting about a nakshatra built entirely around the act of listening showing up right now, on this channel, at this exact moment in this story. I spent 3 months being forced into silence. This nakshatra spends its entire existence teaching that silence, held the right way, is how you learn to hear anything worth repeating in the first place. I didn't choose this timing. I don't think you get to choose timing like this. That detail carries weight for a full moon landing 6 days after Mercury spent weeks forcing exactly that kind of stillness on all of us. The cosmos is handing you the next chapter of the same lesson. Here's where the chart gets specific, and specificity is where Vedic astrology tends to earn its reputation for precision. The moon on July 29th sits at 12 degrees Capricorn. Directly opposite it, the sun sits at 12 degrees Cancer. And sitting in that exact same degree, fused to the sun, is Jupiter. When a planet sits this close to the sun, tradition calls it cazimi, in the heart of the sun. It's considered one of the most empowered placements a planet can hold, because instead of being burned out by the sun's glare, the way most planets are when they get too close, the planet is lit up by it, amplified rather than erased. Think of it less like standing too close to a fire, and more like being handed the flame directly. Jupiter cazimi means expansion, opportunity, and hope, running at full strength, pointed directly at this full moon. Real weight, aimed at whatever the moon is about to illuminate in you. I want to be precise about what that actually means for you, practically. Cazimi placements tend to act less like a slow build and more like a door swinging open you didn't expect to find unlocked. An opening that shows up because the timing itself did the work, whether or not you planned for it. There's a second layer sitting almost on top of the moon itself, and it changes the entire emotional temperature of this event. Pluto is within 2 degrees of the moon, close enough to be considered conjunct, which means Pluto is riding directly alongside the moon, opposing that Sun-Jupiter cazimi across the heavens. Pluto doesn't do subtle, it doesn't nudge. Wherever it touches a chart, it asks for something to be transformed completely, stripped down to what's actually true underneath. Paired with the moon, that pressure lands somewhere personal. Your emotions, your sense of safety, the private version of yourself that doesn't show up in daylight. So on one side of this full moon, you have hope and expansion, wide open and generous. On the other, you have a demand for total honesty about what needs to end. That tension between the two is the real story here, a kind of power that only ever shows up when something is finally being asked to change for good. Sit with this full moon on purpose. Whatever it reveals is likely to arrive with more force than a typical lunation would, precisely because Pluto doesn't ask permission before it starts the process. There's one more structure worth naming because it's specific enough that Vedic astrologers have a name for it. An Adhi Yoga. It forms when 3 particular planets, here, Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter, sit opposite the moon, spread across the 6th, 7th, and 8th houses from it. In plain terms, communication, partnership, and expansion all lined up directly across from where the moon stands, forming a kind of triangle wrapped around it. Those 3 houses aren't gentle ones. The 6th is conflict, obstacles, the daily grind of service and health. The 7th is partnership, the people you're bound to, for better or worse. The 8th is transformation, loss, whatever gets shared or surrendered between 2 people. Classical texts describe an Adhi Yoga forming across exactly this stretch as one that produces leadership earned through friction, forged in precisely the kind of difficulty those 3 houses represent. Power that arrives because you were tested. What makes this formation rare is that all 3 planets are cooperating at once, surrounding the moon from every angle. Vedic astrologers have historically treated a clean Adhi Yoga like this as one of the strongest indicators in the entire chart for someone stepping into a position they were clearly built for. You already know Mercury turned direct on the 23rd. That shift is still settling into place, and this full moon is landing right in its wake, only 6 days later, which is part of why it carries so much weight. The review period is over. What's forming now is what actually gets carried forward from everything that surfaced during those weeks. One more piece worth naming, honestly, because I'd rather tell you the whole chart than just the flattering parts. Mars is sitting in an exact square to Venus around this same window. That's friction, specifically in how we relate to each other. Short tempers, mismatched timing, wanting different things at the same moment from the people closest to you. It's real, and if you're feeling it in your own relationships this week, you're not imagining it or overreacting. But it's a minor note under a much louder chord. Between the cazimi, the Pluto conjunction, and the Adhi Yoga, this full moon is built around a threshold, and the friction is simply what you feel while standing on it right before you step through. I could stop here, on YouTube, with the placements laid out. The placements are only the map. What you actually do standing at this particular threshold is the part that changes something real. Inside the community, I'm going deeper into what this specific Adhi Yoga means depending on where it lands in your own chart. And I'll be leading a guided meditation timed exactly to the peak of this full moon, built around Shravana's listening quality rather than fighting against it. If Vedic astrology is new to you, this is a good place to start. If you've been reading your own chart for years, this is where the real nuance lives, and I'd rather walk you through it directly than leave you piecing it together alone. This is also exactly the kind of forecast I'll keep bringing every month going forward, covering the quieter, more technical events like this one that rarely make it onto YouTube in this much depth. The link is below in the video description, and I'm waiting you all right there. 2 zodiacs, 1 moon, and underneath both of them, the same quiet instruction. Stop talking long enough to hear what's actually being offered to you. Shravana doesn't ask you to chase anything on July 29th. It just asks you to be paying attention when it arrives. I'll see you on the 29th.